I knew it was over the moment he asked, "So, why should we hire you?" And suddenly, nothing, not one word. My mouth opened, but my brain just stopped. I looked at him, then at the table, then at my own hands. I... The room felt too small, too quiet, too cold. He didn't say anything, he just waited. And that was the worst part. Not the question, not even the pressure, the silence. That heavy, painful silence that makes you hear your own heartbeat. I had practiced this answer, again and again, in my room, in the mirror, on the bus. But now, my mind went blank. I tried to smile, like I was still in control. I believe I'm a hard worker and what? I stopped again. He looked down and wrote something. That small movement destroyed me, because now I knew this wasn't just going badly. This was becoming the worst job interview of my life. 20 minutes earlier, I was standing outside the building, staring at my reflection in the glass door. I fixed my shirt. Then I fixed it again. I checked my phone. 10:07. I was already there, 3 minutes early. Good. That was good, right? I took a deep breath and tried to calm down. "Okay," I whispered to myself. "You can do this." I had repeated those words all morning because I needed this job. Not in a dramatic movie way, in a real way. I needed money. I needed routine. I needed to stop feeling like my life was stuck. And maybe this interview was my chance to finally move forward. On the bus, I had practiced simple answers in English under my breath. Tell me about yourself. Why do you want this job? What are your strengths? I knew them, at least, I thought I knew them. A woman opened the door from inside and smiled politely. Hi, are you here for the interview? I turned too fast. Yes, sorry. Yes, I am. She nodded. Come with me. And that was it. No more practice. No more deep breaths. No more second chances outside the building. I followed her in, trying to walk normally. Even knew I could already feel my shirt sticking to my back. The interview room was smaller than I expected. Just one table, 2 chairs, a laptop, a glass of water. Everything looked clean, quiet, and professional. I hated it immediately, because nothing in that room felt warm. Nothing felt human. The interviewer stood up when I walked in. He looked to be in his 40s. Calm face, perfect shirt, neutral voice. Not rude, not friendly either, just impossible to read. Good morning, he said, holding out his hand. Good morning. His handshake was firm. Mine was trying not to shake. He asked me to sit down, and I did. Maybe a little too fast. Then I noticed something. There was another chair in the corner, and another person, a woman with a notebook. I froze for half a second. Oh no. Nobody told me there would be 2 people. This is Clara from HR, he said. She'll just be observing. Of course, I said, trying to sound normal, but inside, I was already falling apart. Observing? What did that even mean? Was she judging my English too? My posture? My face? The way I said good morning? I sat there with my hands together, trying not to move too much. The interviewer opened my resume on his laptop. Okay, he said, let's start with something simple. Tell me a little about yourself. Simple. Right. This was one of the answers I had practiced. I smiled. Too quickly. Well, my name is Daniel. I'm 24 years old and, I'm a very dedicated person. So far, okay. I'm looking for an opportunity to grow, learn new things, and be part of the company. The second I said it, I felt it. Be part of the company? It sounded wrong, too generic, too fake, too rehearsed. The interviewer gave a small nod, but Clara wrote something down. Again, that notebook. That notebook was starting to feel like a weapon. He asked me about my last job. That should have helped. It was real. It was familiar. It was my life. So I started talking faster. Too fast. I worked in customer service for about 2 years, and I was responsible for helping clients, solving problems, answering calls, and also dealing with difficult situations sometimes. I kept going and going and going. I could hear myself speaking, but I couldn't stop. It was like I was trying to fill every second with words so nobody would notice how nervous I was. Then he raised his hand slightly. Not in a rude way. Just enough to stop me. "Okay," he said calmly. "And what did you learn from that experience?" I blinked, because I'd said so much, but somehow I wasn't ready for that question. What did I learn? I knew the answer in my head, but now I had to say it clearly, simply, naturally. And suddenly, even that felt difficult. I learned how to... I paused. How to deal with pressure. Not terrible, but not good either. And he was still looking at me, waiting. I swallowed. And to talk with different kinds of people. Again, I felt it. Talk with? Was it talk with or talk to? Too late. I had already said it, and now my brain was stuck on that one mistake. Not on the interview, not in the next answer. Just on those 2 stupid words. Talk with, talk to, talk with, talk to. I gave a small, nervous smile, hoping nobody noticed. But Clara wrote something down again. Of course she did. Then he asked me a question I wasn't expecting. "Can you tell me about a time you made a mistake at work?" I felt my stomach drop. A mistake? Why did it have to be a mistake? Why not a success? Why not a challenge? Why not something easier? I tried to stay calm. "Sure," I said, but that "sure" came out too quickly, too automatically. The kind of sure people say when they are absolutely not sure. I looked at the table for half a second, buying time. Then I started. One time I sent the wrong information to a client and, it caused some confusion. Okay, that part was true and simple. Good. But then I made the mistake of trying to make the story sound better. I fixed the problem fast, and in the end, everything was fine, so it was not a big problem. The moment I said it, I knew it sounded bad. Because if it wasn't a big problem, then why was I talking about it? The interviewer leaned back slightly. "And what did you do exactly to fix it?" Exactly. That word hit me hard, because now he wanted details, real details, and my answer had been too vague, too safe, too empty. I cleared my throat. I called the client, explained the situation, apologized, and then I sent the correct information. He nodded once. "And what did you learn?" Again. That question again. What did you learn? Why did that simple sentence feel like a trap every time? I looked up, trying to think fast. I learned that I need to pay more attention, especially when I'm doing repetitive tasks. That part was actually good, maybe even my best answer so far. For 1 second, I felt a tiny bit of relief. Then he asked, "And how do you handle stress when several things go wrong at the same time?" And just like that, the relief disappeared. I should have had an answer for that. It was such a normal interview question, such a basic one. But by then, my thoughts were no longer organized. They were running in circles. I tried to answer carefully. Well, first I tried to stay calm. Not great. Too obvious. So, I usually focus on one thing at a time, and then I try to solve the problems step by step. Better. Not amazing, but better. The interviewer watched me for a moment. Then he asked, "And what do you do when staying calm is not possible?" I stared at him because that didn't feel like a normal question anymore. That felt personal. Too personal. Like he could already see I wasn't calm. Like he could already see everything. The shaky voice, the tense shoulders, the hands I kept hiding under the table. I let out a small laugh, a nervous one. "Well, I paused. I think I try to breathe and not panic. Not panic. Great. Now I had said the word panic out loud. Perfect. The interviewer didn't react, but Clara looked up for the first time since the interview started. Not for long, just 1 second. But that second was enough. Because now I knew she had noticed too. I wasn't just nervous. I was visibly nervous. And there's a huge difference. When you feel nervous inside, you can still pretend. But when other people can see it, that's when the fear gets bigger. That's when you start losing control. I reached for the glass of water. Bad idea. My hand was shaking more than I thought. Not enough to spill it, but enough. Enough for me to notice. Enough to wonder if they noticed too. I took one small sip and put the glass down carefully. Too carefully. Like if I moved too fast, the whole room would hear the truth. I was not ready. Then came the question. The one that broke me. He looked at my resume again, then back at me. "There's a gap here," he said. "Can you explain that period?" My chest tightened immediately. Of course he noticed that. I had known this might come up. I had even prepared something simple, honest, professional. But in that moment, all the clean, organized sentences disappeared. I looked at the dates on the paper from where I was sitting, even though I couldn't read them clearly, as if that would help. "Well, yeah," I said. "That was a period where I was dealing with some personal things and also trying to understand what direction I wanted for my life." It sounded weak, too vague, too careful. The interviewer stayed quiet, not in a cruel way, just waiting. But I was starting to hate the way he waited, because every time he stayed silent, I felt pushed to say more, and saying more was exactly what I should not have done. So, during that time, I was also trying to improve myself, learning some things online and thinking about what kind of work made sense for me. He nodded once. "What kind of things were you learning?" There it was again, a normal question, a reasonable question. And still, it felt like someone had just moved the floor under my feet. I opened my mouth, closed it, then opened it again. English and communication and some other things too. Some other things too? What did that even mean? I could hear myself becoming smaller with every sentence, less clear, less confident, less believable. The interviewer folded his hands. "And why do you think now is the right time to come back?" That question hit deeper than it should have, because suddenly this wasn't about work anymore. It felt like it was about me, about whether I'd wasted time, about whether I had failed, about whether I was just another person saying, "I'm ready now," without really being ready at all. I tried to answer. I really did. But my throat felt tight. Because nothing. I looked down, then up again. Because I want to move forward. It was true, but it wasn't enough. I could feel that it wasn't enough the second it left my mouth. He gave me a small, polite smile, the kind people use when they don't want to make you uncomfortable, but they already know the answer. "I understand," he said, and somehow that made it worse. Because I didn't want understanding. I wanted another chance, another version of myself, a better voice, a better answer, a better 20 minutes. He looked down at the laptop again. Then he asked one final question. If we called your previous manager today, what do you think they would say about you? That should have been easy. It should have been one of the easiest questions in the room. But by then, I was no longer answering questions. I was surviving them. I tried to speak. I think they would say that I'm responsible, respectful, and come on, say something, anything. I could feel the silence building again, that horrible silence, the one that gets louder every second. My lips moved, but the words didn't come. Because now I wasn't only trying to answer, I was also watching myself fail. At the same time, from inside. It's a terrible feeling when one part of you is still sitting in the chair, but another part is already outside the room, full of shame, wanting to disappear. I looked at the interviewer, then at Clara, both waiting, both calm. And me? Completely frozen. My eyes started to burn, not enough to cry, but enough to scare me. No, not here, not now. I forced the words out. They would say I'm someone they can trust. There, finally, a full sentence, a decent one even, but my voice was different now, thinner, tired, like it had already given up before I did. The interviewer gave a final nod and closed the laptop. Okay, he said. Thank you for your time. That was it. No dramatic ending, no big final moment, just one sentence, clean, professional, final. And somehow, that hurt more than anything. I stood up too fast. Thank you, I said, or maybe thanks. I'm not even sure. My chair moved a little when I pushed it back, and the sound felt louder than it should have. The interviewer stood up and shook my hand again. Same calm face, same unreadable expression. It was nice meeting you, he said. You too. Clara gave me a polite smile, not cold, not warm, just polite. And somehow that politeness felt unbearable, because nobody was being cruel. Nobody was humiliating me. Nobody was even saying I did badly. And still, I could feel it in every second. I opened the door and stepped out into the hallway. The door closed softly behind me, and the second it did, my whole body changed. I stopped pretending. My shoulders dropped. My face tightened. I let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for an hour. A woman at the front desk looked up briefly. I looked away fast and walked toward the elevator. Normal pace. Keep walking. Don't look upset. Don't make a face. Don't let anyone see. The elevator button felt cold under my finger. I stared at the little light above the door like it was taking forever. And that's when it started. Not tears. Not exactly. Just that horrible pressure behind the eyes. That painful heat in your face when you're trying so hard to stay in control. The elevator opened. I stepped inside. The doors closed. And finally, alone for the first time since the interview started, I looked at my reflection in the metal doors. I looked exhausted, smaller somehow, like I had left part of myself in that room upstairs. I replayed everything immediately, every pause, every awkward smile, every weak answer, every silence. Be part of the company. Some other things too, because I want to move forward. I closed my eyes. Why did I say that? My voice came out as a whisper, the kind you only use when you're alone and disappointed in yourself. Then the elevator reached the ground floor. The doors opened, and life outside was completely normal. People walking, cars passing, someone laughing across the street, a delivery bike stopping at the corner. It almost made me angry. How could the world look so normal when I felt that bad? I walked out of the building and stood there for a second, not moving. Then I took out my phone. No new messages, no miracle. no second chance, no sudden proof that maybe it hadn't gone so badly. Just the home screen staring back at me. I locked it again. And for one quiet second, I thought about disappearing. Not forever, just for the rest of the day. Going home, turning everything off, not talking to anyone. Because some kinds of embarrassment don't make you want to cry. They make you want to hide. I started walking with no real direction, just away. Away from the building, away from that room, away from that version of me. My tie felt too tight, so I pulled it loose. Then I took a deep breath, then another. A bus passed in front of me, and for 1 second I thought about getting on it without even checking where it was going. I just wanted movement, distance, the strange comfort of not being in that place anymore. I stopped near a coffee shop window and looked at my reflection again. Still the same face, still tired, still embarrassed, but calmer now, a little. Enough to think one honest thing. It wasn't the worst interview ever because they were mean. It was the worst interview ever because I knew I could have done better. That was the part that stayed with me, not their questions, not Clara's notebook, not even the silence. It was the gap between the person I wanted to be in that room and the person I actually was. I stood there for a moment, hands in my pockets, watching people pass by. And then I did something small, simple, almost stupid. I opened my notes app and I wrote, "Next time, speak slower, answer one thing at a time, don't panic during silence, give real examples, breathe." I stared at the list. It didn't fix anything. It didn't save the interview. It didn't make me feel strong or inspired or ready to conquer the world. But it felt real, and real was enough. I put my phone away and started walking again, still embarrassed, still disappointed, still hearing parts of the interview in my head, but walking. And maybe that was all I had that day, not confidence, not victory, just movement, just one foot in front of the other. And honestly, sometimes that's all a person can do after a day like that.